Hi everyone, almost done with Unit 3. We're going to do a little bit of review. You can think about it, if you were going to build a system or buy a computer system, let's say to do game design or maybe a lot of artistic things or whatever, you'd want to know what to actually purchase. We'll talk more about that later. So, identify the parts, how do they work together, what does the OS do, and what's the relationship between the OS apps and the users. We'll be finishing that up today. Computing devices. There are a lot of them, right? We have the standard ones we talked about: smartphones, tablets, PCs, laptops, and then we also got into in industry, you know, computing devices that are used in manufacturing or in making a car function and so forth. Right. We will do a little bit of a review here. So we have, we talked already about the ASCII code representing text. We talked about bits and bytes, and you should be able to now use those correctly. How we use this, and how we use this. Okay? Should be. Here are all the devices we talked about, and then we also referred to all of these devices also. Workstations or desktops, servers. We talked about a server client environment. And we'll talk more about that as the year goes on, quite a bit. Now more and more, because of cloud computing, we have more power at the server and a more simple client accessing the server, like a smartphone. Mini computers, mainframes, all of these get more expensive and more powerful. Supercomputers. And then we can group together PCs in a couple different fashions in order to get more computing power out of them. And then we can take a powerful PC, like in a business, college does this, and then you actually virtualize, or you have virtual machines. So on here, on this one big machine, one workstation, or I should say a powerful PC, you can have what would look like multiple machines running on it. Be just like dividing it up into separate machines, even though it's one computer. You make really good use of the hardware. Make really good use of the hardware in that situation. Because, like when we have these quad core, these quad core processors that are so powerful nowadays, if you have a bunch of virtual machines using that, you can make better use of that particular processor. Or towards the end. Built-in computing devices, we talked about that. They're building them into almost everything nowadays. System unit, motherboard, processor, bus travels the thing through, some kind of graphics card, and then we were interested in the speed, remember? How many gigahertz? And that relationship. Virtual memory, remember that's on some type of hard drive. And it acts like memory when we're short on memory up here. Okay, ports. We have all kinds of ports that we can connect to, for example, USB, and we mentioned FireWire before, network to connect to the machine, and then the power supply. Okay, we mentioned that already. The computing performance. Remember how important memory is, and so in terms of having a machine perform well. The storage, we talked about that. magnetic spots on a tape or disc, or flash, storing it with that technology, or using laser to store it optically. And then where are those? Almost all our storage is like one of these, and it just depends on, is it, if it's in the cloud, and we have some server here at iCloud, for your Apple stuff. They probably have large magnetic platters to store information. Okay, and then a little review here. We talked about storing it out. Oops, storing it out on the internet, mass storage, or in a SAN type of storage area network. Input devices. We covered all these already. We covered input. We covered output. We defined software. Operating systems are key. We have lots of utilities. As you become more of an expert in technology, you become better at managing utilities. Remember, a piece of software that connects your equipment and lets it communicate with the operating system, device drivers. If you have a particular type of printer, there'd be a device driver that allows it to communicate with whatever OS you're running. Make sure you always keep your malware antivirus software up to date, and then we listed a bunch of operating. Now, we haven't talked much about applications yet. And so an application, again, when you get an application, there'll be some specs for that would say, which OS does it run on, and maybe how much memory it's going to need, and how much space on the hard drive you're going to need to store it, if that's where you're storing it, and so forth. Other than that, we have applications then communicate with the operating system, which communicates with the hardware. Productivity software, that's a group of software. It's typically includes word processing, spreadsheets, database, maybe some type of graphics, some type of presentation, be able to present material. Custom software designed for a specific purpose for your business. A lot of businesses design their own software. Facebook, Facebook designed their own way of managing social media. And there were other things, other social media out there before Facebook. But something about the way they designed their software and the features they put into it made it more popular than other things like MySpace. We have the term, we use a term just like, apps, a lot of times used on mobile devices, so sometimes that gets interchanged with applications. The same general thing. Gaming industry is huge. Talk more about that later on. Games. There's software written for a specific industry, specific applications. There's certain software for, let's say, weather, Even though at a weather station they may use some productivity software, but they have specific software that monitors the devices and so forth. They probably have their own way of moving that information. We have lots of other general pieces of applications. A browser is a type of application. You might have an email client. You might have some accounting software, QuickBooks, and so forth. There is software out there that helps you develop and make software. There are all kinds of options out there to have you learn to code. And coding is writing the software, the actual software instructions. And again, if this is the hardware, I want you to remember, okay, that I've driven multiple diagrams. What deals with the hardware is the operating system, some type of system software. And what deals with that is some application. And who deals with the application? User. And what's really amazing, I think it's amazing, you may not, is you can have lots of applications open on your device or your computer, and that operating system is going to keep track of where they are in memory, and which one, who gets what turned, access the processor, and so forth. Okay? That's it.